Hey everyone, Nami here, and in today's video I want to go over arcanes that everyone should consider having to make their warframes as powerful as possible. I'll be going over what they do, why they are good, and also where you can get them. I'm not going to talk about every arcane in the game as that would just take up the entire day, considering there are a ton of arcanes the game has to offer. Instead, I'll break down a realistic shopping list of the core arcanes that are just good on almost any account. By the end of this video, you'll know which arcane to target first, what they actually do for your build, and where they fit in your Warframe playstyle. Quick disclaimer before we dive into the list. The arcanes I'm covering today are my personal picks for what I think would increase overall damage or quality of life for any Warframe. I won't be going over arcanes that are required for only specific Warframes or build, as I feel like that can be a list for another video. If this video receives say 1000 likes, I'll make a situational arcane list as well. So hit that like button if you would like to see that video. Do note that if the arcanes that you use don't make it in this list, it doesn't mean that they are bad. It just means that those arcanes might be situational only for certain warframes or weapons. However, if you think they should be on the list, feel free to let me know in the comments below. With that being said, let's get right into it. First up on the recommended arcane list is Molt Augmented. Molt Augmented is basically a permanent power-up for your abilities. For every kill you get, you earn a stack of ability strength, topping off at a massive 60% after 250 kills at max rank. It stays active for the entire mission, which means that you get more strength than a transient fortitude at max rank without the duration penalties. If you're doing long runs, it's an absolute S tier pick. However, for shorter duration missions which take only about 1 to 2 minutes to complete, an alternative that you could use is Molt Vigor. Molt Vigor provides a 45% ability strength at max rank on one Warframe ability cast provided you cast an operator ability first. It's a hassle considering you have to use an operator ability every time you want that 45% increase in Warframe abilities. But if that's not a problem for you, you can definitely pick this up as well. To get Molt Augmented, you can either purchase it from Cavallero and Zariman for 10,000 standings each, or you could get them as random drops from Thraxes or Void Angels. It is pretty demanding as you'd require rank 5 with the holdfasts, however for Molt Vigor you only require rank 1 and the acquisition for this arcane is the same as well. You'd also only require 5,000 standings for this arcane. Next on the list is Arcane Concentration, one of the old peace arcanes. On ability cast, you get plus 60% ability duration for 3 seconds at max rank. Any ability you cast inside that window snapshots the extra duration. That's insanely good on abilities that are duration based. Cast a cheap ability first, then immediately cast your main buff or nuke and you've just given it a free duration steroid. You can get this arcane from Roth in the Cathedral inside Sanctum Anatomica for 5 Mafika apiece. An alternative to this arcane would be Molt Efficiency, which provides 36% ability duration at max rank provided your shields are active. You can get this arcane from Cavallero for 7,500 standings at rank 3 or as random drops from Thraxes and Void Angels. The next arcane that I would recommend is Arcane Energize. This arcane provides a 60% chance of gaining an additional 150 energy for you and nearby allies whenever you pick up an energy orb, though there is a 15-second cooldown between each proc. I know this can be debatable, especially with energy sustaining alternatives now, but if you're getting to snag a rank 5 Arcane Energize at 200 plats or lower, this is an arcane which you should be including in your arsenal. I feel like Arcane Energize are for those players who are tight on mod capacity. When you're trying to fit every bit of strength, range, or survivability into a build, you usually end up cutting things like efficiency or maximum energy. This arcane fills that gap. It lets you build for raw power and defenses on your actual frame, while the arcane slot handles the fuel side of things. You can get this arcane by capturing the Eidolon Hydralist or randomly dropped from Rotation C of the Orphix Vale Proxima missions. Talking about survivability and defenses, the next arcane on this list is Arcane Aegis. Arcane Aegis gives you a chance whenever your shields take damage to massively ramp up shield regen for 12 seconds, and at rank 5 that regen is 30% of your maximum shields per second. Because it removes the normal shield recharge delay, it works incredibly well with shield gating setups. Your shields break, you become briefly invulnerable, and Aegis can immediately start refilling them so the gate comes back in. This can make you feel way tankier than your HP bar suggests. Second on the list would be Arcane Guardian. This Arcane has a 15% chance to provide 900 armor for 20 seconds at maximum rank when you take damage. With an adaptation mod for players who do not want to constantly manage abilities for damage reduction, this Arcane provides the necessary defenses to survive through the Steel Path star chart. Do note, however, that this Arcane becomes less effective on enemies that can one-shot you mostly at higher levels, which would be around 150 plus. Both of these Arcanes that I mentioned can randomly drop from these sources. The third Arcane on this list, which can substitute Arcane Guardian at high levels, is Arcane Circumvent. Arcane Circumvent steals 50% of enemies' armor, shields, and overguard at max rank by just rolling through them. Do note that against armor, the buff is capped at 1000 and for overguard, it is capped at 10,000, but it can refresh every time you roll through an enemy. For shields, however, the excess amount can flow into overshields. Rolling into enemies not only grants defenses to your Warframe but also strips enemies of their defenses. Rolling twice through an enemy will completely strip its defenses at max rank. Arcane Circumvent is effectively an S tier utility Arcane for players who like playing actively, however I would rate it an A for those who prefer a more automated survivability playstyle. This Arcane can be bought for 5 Mafika each from Broth in Sanctum and Atomica. Let's move over to weapons, starting with primaries. Primary Merciless and Primary Deadhead are still two of the most widely used primary Arcanes for Steel Path and late game. Merciless stacks damage and reload speed on kill up to a massive 360% bonus on max rank when it's at 12 stacks, and it's super easy to maintain in Horde content. Do note that the reload speed is only gotten when the Arcane is at rank 5. Primary Deadhead stacks on headshot kills, rewarding accurate play with a big damage boost and headshot multiplier at max rank. If you like hitting enemies with headshots, this Arcane is for you. Both these Arcanes can be dropped from Acolyte spawn every 4 to 5 minutes on Steel Path missions. Then we have Primary Crux, which is pretty strong if you use guns that don't like to be reloaded. On weak point hits, Crux gives you a 3% status chance, but I feel the main use case for this Arcane is for the 60% ammo efficiency at rank 5. It turns primary weapons that like being fired continuously to maintain that fire rate for a longer time with this Arcane equipped. To acquire this Arcane, you can speak with Eleanor in Hollowvania and purchase it for 7,500 standings each, provided you are rank 2 with the Hex. You can also get this Arcane as a random drop from the different game modes offered in Hollowvania. For the secondaries, apart from the secondary versions of Merciless and Deadhead, which also do the same thing as the primary versions and are also dropped from the Acolytes, first up on the list of recommendations would be Cascadia Flare. Cascadia Flare ramps your secondary weapon damage every time you apply a heat proc, up to 480% bonus damage at 40 stacks for 10 seconds at rank 5. It doesn't even require kills, just heat status. This makes it absurd on high fire rate heat sidearms or anything using heat inherent setups, and many players consider it one of the strongest pistol Arcanes in the game. You can get this Arcane from Cavallero for 5,500 standings each, provided you are rank 2 with the holdfasts. And these are also the different sources where you can get them. Second on the list is secondary Enervate. Enervate is by far one of the best Arcanes for secondaries in the game currently, as it adds a flat 10% critical chance per stack on hit, and the critical chance only resets after you've landed a certain number of big crits. Meaning, say you had a weapon with a base crit chance of 10%, using this Arcane you would only require 9 hits to reach 100% crit chance on your weapon, as the increase is additive and not multiplicative. For people who don't want to get into the technicalities, just know that this Arcane is great for secondary weapons. To obtain this Arcane, you could buy it from Eleanor for 7,500 standings, provided you are rank 5 with the Hex. You can also get this Arcane as random drops from the different game modes offered in Hollowvania. The third Arcane that I would recommend is called Secondary Fortifier. Secondary Fortifier is a powerful Arcane that lets you steal overguard from enemies and add it to your own health pool as a protective layer. It significantly boosts your survival by giving you up to 15,000 personal overguard and making tough enemies easier to kill by dealing 8 times extra damage to their defensive bars at max rank. It's a great defensive Arcane as it provides instant status immunity and turns your secondary weapons into a specialized tools for shredding Eximus units, since Eximus units are mostly having overguard. Secondary Fortifier can be purchased from Ordis in the Drifter's camp for 10 vestigial motes each, and alternatively can be obtained from these sources. Coming down to melee arcanes, the only arcane I feel that you should consider getting ASAP for melee is Melee Influence. What this arcane does is that whenever your melee weapon applies an electricity proc, there's a 20% chance to activate a buff that makes all your melee elemental status effects spread in a radius up to 20 meters for 18 seconds at rank 5. That means, as an example, say that you do a 50,000 status damage to one enemy, which most likely would be electricity for most builds. With melee influence active, that 50k damage will also affect enemies up to 20 meters, meaning each enemy will receive a 50,000 electricity damage due to the spread. At higher levels, numbers can be even more broken where you are just clearing waves of enemies in single hits provided you have the right setup or build. Do note that physical status effects like puncture, impact, and slash damages do not spread to other enemies. Only elemental statuses like electricity, viral, radiation, heat, cold, etc. do. That's just something you should keep in mind when equipping this arcane. For acquisition, you can buy it from Birth 3 for 7,500 standings at Sanctum Anatomica provided you are rank 4 with the Kavya. Alternatively, this arcane can also randomly drop from these sources. The second melee arcane which I consider you should get, and this is only because it synergizes well with Arcane Circumvent that I mentioned earlier, is Melee Careen. Melee Careen turns your dodge rolls into a weapon by freezing all enemies in a 5.5 meter radius. It is pretty good because it works even when your melee weapon is holstered, providing instant crowd control and a massive 2.5x multiplicative damage bonus against any enemies with 10 cold stacks, which you will inflict on enemies at rank 5 of this arcane. Combined with Arcane Circumvent, you are not only dealing 2.5x the damage to enemies that are frozen but also stealing their defenses in the process, making this a great combo provided you have Arcane Circumvent on your Warframe. This arcane can be bought from the same place as Arcane Circumvent, which is from Roth for 5 Mafika each. Coming down to the operator side, here are the arcanes that I put under the everyone should at least consider list. Magus Elevate, Magus Repair, Magus Melt, Magus Lockdown, and the Amp Arcanes Eternal Eradicate and Eternal Onslaught. Magus Elevate gives you up to 95% chance to heal 300 HP on your Warframe at max rank every time you transfer back in, making it a simple spammable self-heal. Magus Repair, on the other hand, heals all nearby Warframes for a percentage of their health per second while you're in Void mode. Most players would use Magus Repair for high HP Warframes like Inaros or Nidus, or even for healing their squad mates. And Elevate, on the other hand, is used for frames that generally don't have a lot of HP. Magus Melt injects pure heat damage into your amp attacks every time you perform a Void Sling. At max rank, each dash adds a 30% heat bonus that stacks up to 7 times, effectively doubling your damage output and allowing your operator to shred through armor with ease. It remains a top tier choice for high level players because it provides the massive damage elemental punch needed to kill tough enemies without relying on Warframe abilities. Magus Lockdown drops a tether mine every time you Void Sling, instantly freezing up to 10 enemies in a place for 4 seconds. It is a staple in high-level play because it provides emergency crowd control that works even on tough targets like Demolishers and Acolytes, letting you stop them in their tracks to line up easy headshots or revive teammates safely. It remains one of the most popular arcanes in the game because it gives every single Warframe a panic button stun regardless of their actual abilities. Magus Elevate can be bought from Quill Onco for 10,000 standings each as long as you are rank 5 with the Quills, whereas Magus Repair and Magus Melt are both obtained from Little Duck at 10,000 standings apiece, provided you are rank 5 with Vox Solaris. Though Magus Lockdown requires the same amounts of standing per piece, it can be acquired from Little Duck at rank 4 instead. On the Amp Arcane side, the two big ones that have not changed for a long time are Eternal Eradicate and Eternal Onslaught. Eternal Eradicate is your reliable damage buff that grants a 60% damage increase to your amp for 8 seconds every time you use an operator's ability. It is incredibly popular because of how easy it is to trigger. Just using your operator ability once is enough to keep the buff active indefinitely. It's considered a must-have for general play since it provides a flat, consistent power boost to every shot you fire. Eternal Onslaught grants your operator a massive 180% critical chance bonus for 8 seconds, but only when your operator's energy is fully depleted. It is the gold standard for Eidolon hunting or Void Cascade because you can intentionally drain your energy with Void Strike to guarantee orange or even red crits on every hit. While it requires more setup than Eradicate, the sheer damage potential makes it a staple for anyone tackling the game's high-level content. Eternal Onslaught and Internal Eradicate are both obtained from Cavalero at 5500 standings on rank 2 and 5000 standings on rank 1 respectively. They can also be obtained from these sources as random drops. And that's the list, folks. These arcanes are the backbone of most high-level builds you'll see today. If you manage to tick these off your shopping list, you're going to notice a night and day difference in how your Warframes perform in Steel Path and beyond. Remember, the farm can be long, but the power spike is worth it. If I missed one of your personal must-haves, or if you found a crazy synergy with Arcanes, drop a comment below as I love seeing what you guys are cooking up in the simulacrum. Don't forget to hit that like button so we can get the situational Arcane list started, and subscribe if you want to see more Warframe guides like these. Until then, stay grindy Tenno, and I'll catch you in the next one.